What's up, Bucs Squad? I'm your host, Jaron Spor. I'm going to tell you why we haven't seen the best from Emeka Egbuka yet this season.
I'm Marcus Ray, and I have a bold prediction for this game coming up Sunday.
I'm James Yarcho, and I'm going to tell you why Emeka Egbuka is about to eat against the Patriots.
Hey, Tampa Bay, it's the Buccaneers squad. Everything Tampa Bay Buccaneers every week. Breaking down all the big hits and game-changing plays from the heart of the Sunshine State, the way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. With a touch of the Buccaneer way, the Buccaneer Squad Show starts now.
What's up, everybody? Real quick, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Real quick, also, before we get into it, I just want to preface, if we're having any kind of video issues again, I apologize. We're hoping to figure it out, because I know my video's been a little blurry. We're working with the company, and hopefully we'll have that solved soon, and hopefully it's not bad today. But all right, let's get into the trade deadline, guys. Bucs, obviously, not very active, but several teams were, and there were several blockbuster trades. Was there any kind of trade that kind of stood out to you, Marcus?
Well, the one for me was the Sauce Gardner going to the Colts.
Yeah.
I mean, it just really looks like the Jets are emptying out the cupboard. They got Rick Williams too. So when you get a guy like Sauce, I didn't think he was having a banner year. I mean, by no stretch of the imagination, but at the same time, he still is Sauce Gardner. And when the Colts get a guy like that, they were already playing good football, and now they're saying, "Hey, we'll give up first-round pick for Gardner. Good luck finding another one." So for me, the one that stood out the most, and I know there was a lot going on, and I was just thinking, if these guys, Aaron Glenn in year one, and when you start getting rid of guys like Sauce, and you're thinking about building for the future, Aaron Glenn might not even be there to draft these guys. So I'm just saying, like, you could lose your job in year one, and so this could be a move for the next coach. Now, I wish him well, but we know this is a win-now league. There are no scholarships. And so, hey, NFL means not for long. But just understand, the Jets are building for the future, and I thought the Colts got a better deal for this season. So that was the one that stood out to me the most. I mean, there were a couple more, but what do you think, James?
Yeah, 100% it was Sauce. I think that was the one that not only was it the biggest name and I think the biggest move, but it was the biggest surprise, right? Nobody expected Sauce to get dealt after he just got a huge extension from the Jets in the offseason. And then, to turn around and trade Williams as well, I think was kind of the sign that it was like, okay, we're done with this year. My biggest confusion came from the fact that you're unloading Sauce, you're unloading Williams. Why would you keep Breece Hall? At that point, everybody in the world knows that you're not going to re-sign him after this season. Why not let him go somewhere where he might be able to, compete and play on a team that could make the postseason and get something for him before he leaves in free agency? So that was kind of confusing to me. But since you've already talked about Sauce, I want to talk about the one that kind of stood out to me as kind of my favorite. And it was the one that we got right at the wire. I think the Chargers trading for Trevor Penning was so smart. This is a team that they just lost Joe Alt after already losing their right tackle for the season. So they've lost both tackles. This is a team in Los Angeles that I think can make some noise in the AFC. Justin Herbert is slinging it. You have an emergence from Quentin Johnston. You have Ladd McConkey. Keenan Allen looks kind of like his old self. And then once they're able to get Omarion Hampton back, you'll get the running game going a little bit better. The defense has been solid, but we've also seen how Herbert played without Joe Alt in the game. I think going out and getting yourself a starting tackle for just the cost of a 6th-round pick, not in the next draft, but the draft after that, from a team that's not really going anywhere, I think it was a brilliant move by the Chargers, and I'm really excited to see how quickly he can adapt and to continue to see this Chargers offense just take off.
And I'm glad you mentioned Breece Hall, because we talked about Sauce being traded and Quentin being traded. the talk going into the trade deadline was Brees was being traded. None of those other two guys were being traded, so that's why it was such a surprise. But I also hate when this stuff happens to coaches that are new, like Aaron Glenn, to being a head coach, because it's like he finally gets that opportunity after having really successful seasons with Detroit, and then you trade away his two best players and be like, good luck, you still got to win because you're gone if you don't. Like, I just wonder if he would have known this before taking the job, does he still take it? Probably not. I bet he stays with Detroit in that scenario. So I hate it for him. But the one that, because y'all mentioned several of them, the one that I thought was kind of sneaky that was the Seahawks, Rashid Shaheed. I thought that was a very good move for them, actually, because it's not like he's this elite receiver, but they are literally Jackson Smith and Jigba or bust. Because he has 948 yards receiving, and the next price is Cooper Kupp with 293. Like, it's literally just throw him the ball. And so now they get another weapon. He's also great in the return game if they want to use him that way. I just think Seattle at 6-2, tied with the Bucs and for first place in the NFC, that was a sneaky good move in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with that, man. And the other one that I was looking at too was Phillips going to the Eagles from the Dolphins. And I was kind of thinking, like, when you lose guys like Brandon Graham, I follow him. He's a Michigan guy. And they just haven't had that edge rush. And what you're seeing in the NFL is the outside linebacker position becoming like those 3-4 outside backers, they're becoming glorified rush in. So now if you're Philadelphia, I mean, their bread and butter was getting to the quarterback. So it's something that they're not doing as efficiently or effectively as they would like. So when you have a team that's bad, like the Dolphins, you just start plucking their best players, and then you can reload your roster and then let them go handle their business later with draft picks or whatever. But I thought for me, a sneaky one was Phillips going to the Eagles from the Dolphins.
And that one there's no other way to put it. That move made me so angry. And we, as a society, stop doing things to help the Eagles. Like, right. Enough already. I don't understand how they have all of this elite talent fall into their lap in the draft. They hoodwink everybody that they make a trade with. I don't stop doing deals with the Eagles. Stop it. It drives me insane. One thing that I did notice a lot of people were surprised about, I personally wasn't, was after the Sauce trade, the big talk from what I could gather on social media was Trey Hendrickson's next. Like, you just saw a massive domino fall. So, of course, the Bengals, who had already made a trade early Tuesday morning with the Dallas Cowboys, it's like, okay, their defense is terrible. They can't help but give up 40 points a game. Go ahead and unload Trey for what you can. He's going to hit free agency. He's not coming back. Go ahead and let him go. Mm-hmm. And I started thinking about it. I was like, you know what? There's no shot that Trey Hendrickson ends up getting moved, because that organization is so dysfunctional and so delusional that they saw that the Jets got 2 firsts and Adonai Mitchell for Sauce Gardner. And they probably said, you know what? We want 2 firsts for Trey Hendrickson, for a rental of Trey Hendrickson. And so many people were like, oh, Trey can go here. Trey can go here. I'm like, he's not going anywhere, because the Bengals have lost their minds. Otherwise, he would have been moved in the offseason.
Yeah, Jalen Phillips, that was a really good one, because that didn't happen today. It happened a couple days ago. It was kind of the surprise for a lot of people. Also, Jair Alexander, and I know he's been hurt, and so he's not the same player he was, but it feels like every single time the Eagles make that move where they bring in the guy that isn't what he once was, he starts playing like he once was. So that's another one that it's like, what if he starts playing like the old Jair Alexander? But you mentioned it, both of you, about the Eagles. Howie Roseman is like the NFL Sam Presti. I mean, he's just dealing. Every single time he makes a trade, I text one of my friends. He's a diehard Dallas fan, so he hates the Eagles. I always text him. I'm like, I always just say salary cap ? Because I'm like, how do they always make these moves? And he's always been big on the salary cap's a myth. You can work around it. It's not really a big deal. And hey, he might be right with all the moves the Eagles always make, it feels like, because it feels like they make 3 or 4 trades a year.
Well, And James mentioned it before the show. As no surprise, Light didn't do anything in Tampa. I mean, it's just not his game. You know, we talked about that the other day. You know, we start some of those other receivers, Shaheed, Jacoby Myers, you know, brought those names up as potential guys that Tampa took if they did get busy just to get through the season. But then you have to start paying people afterwards, and you're already loaded up in the wide receiver room. But I was kind of looking at like Dallas too, getting Logan, right? The linebacker.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Yeah, Logan Paulson.
Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, but you picked a guy from the one defense that's worse than yours. It's like, I mean, he could play now. Don't get it. But Dallas also was looking to get some help on the interior line too, because they're trying to rush the quarterback. See, I tell you guys all the time, man, since we started, you have to earn like the passer. Is it, you know, and we're going to talk about that when we get into this next segment. But what I'm saying is, if you can stop the run, then when guys start pinning their ears back to go get the quarterback. And just Dallas, you know, that's something that they're trying to do. But they needed help at linebacker. But I just thought today it was so much going on. I was like, what are these guys doing? And then when you see first rounders, you know, just getting dealt and traded, like I thought there was like a game of poker going on. I don't know how to play poker. I'm like, I mean, these guys are willing and dealing all day, man. So, but Tampa didn't make any moves, but that was no surprise to us. And I mean, I think there were a couple guys that, like we said the other day, that they could have looked into, but I just don't think Jason wanted to do that.
Yeah, and I'm very confident in saying, you know, Jason was on the phone. I'm sure they had addressed guys that they thought could help the team, but Jason's also smart enough to not mortgage the future, right? He is a guy that he and his scout team and his staff have done such a phenomenal job in the draft over the course of the last couple of years that when you start seeing multiple firsts fly around or a combination of firsts and seconds flying around for these guys, Jason's not going to do that. He's going to take a look at what they have, where they can improve, what the short-term and the long-term costs are going to be, and ultimately couldn't find a deal that was going to work. And I did see some people complaining about, you know, how come the Bucs couldn't get Rashid Shaheed for the price that Seattle paid for him? Well, I'll tell you exactly why. You have to pay the division tax. So whatever Seattle paid, it was going to be a heck of a lot more expensive for Tampa because New Orleans wasn't going to trade him within the division. The only time you trade a player within the division is if you know he can't play ball. Take a look at, you know, the Eagles sending Jahan Dotson to the Washington Commanders. They knew he couldn't play. They weren't going to be scared of him. The Saints would be scared of Rashid Shaheed facing them twice a year. So, yeah, it just – not all deals are created equal. So just because one team got a player for a certain price doesn't mean that the Bucs themselves could have paid the same price to get him.
Yeah, and I kind of want to tie this into the Bucs because when Jalen Phillips got traded from the Dolphins, it kind of felt like they were going to do what the Jets did, just start giving away salaries and start the rebuild. You kept hearing Minka Fitzpatrick's name out there. And so after that Phillips trade happened, and we talked about it on Sunday, I was like, okay, Jordan Brooks is probably getting moved. And that's great for Tampa because Tampa might be looking for a linebacker. Obviously, he didn't get moved. Minka didn't get moved. Like, they didn't do anything really outside of the Jalen Phillips trade. And so that was kind of a surprise to me that they weren't a player because it felt like they were going to be, and then the Bucs could benefit off that. And a lot of times, if you have a team that's desperate to offload some salaries and definitely start the rebuild, you can get a guy cheaper than you would have otherwise been able to get him. So that's why I thought maybe Tampa could get a Jordan Brooks, but obviously nothing ended up happening, which, as we mentioned, isn't a surprise with Jason Light's history.
And it looks like the Jets are going all in, kind of like the Oklahoma City Thunder did in basketball. The problem is getting those kind of picks is 5 guys out there on the field, and you only get one guy at a time. You know, there's 22 different starters. So the impact of those first-round picks may not even kick in until year 3, 4, or even 5.
Unless they package those to be able to put themselves in a situation to draft their quarterback of the future, or who they hope their quarterback of the future is in this upcoming draft, because they got a ton of them. You can put a couple of those together and move up. The problem is you would be the quarterback of the future for the New York Jets, and the New York Jets quarterbacks never have a future until they get out of New York. You had one in Sam Darnold. You had one, and you let him walk right out the door, and now he's one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL.
Yeah, and also the Thunder had Sam Presti. I don't think the Jets run as well as the Thunder do, so that might make a difference as well. But all right, coming up next, we're going to preview the Bucs versus Patriots, a massive game this weekend. Can they pull it off? We'll talk about it coming up next.
Nobody likes paying rent. If you must, you might as well get something for it. That's where Built comes in. Built is changing the game by turning your rent payment into real rewards that you can actually use. When you pay rent through Built, you earn flexible points that can be redeemed toward hundreds of hotels and airlines, a future rent payment, your next Lyft ride, and more. But Built isn't just about the rent. It's about rewarding you around your entire neighborhood. Built has made everyday life feel more rewarding, from your neighborhood to your travel plans. Turn your rent into rewards and start earning points around your neighborhood by going to joinbuilt.com/lockedonnfl. That's joinbilt.com/lockedonnfl. Make sure to use that link so they know we sent you.
All right, well, thanks for joining the Tampa Bay Bucs squad show. Let's dive into this week's matchup. The Buccaneers versus the Patriots. That brutal 3-game stretch starts with this weekend. Patriots, one of the surprises of the NFL with the start that they're having under Mike Vrabel. Marcus, what are you looking for in this one?
Well, I'll tell you right now, they have it at 2.5 right now, Tampa, -2.5, and I think that could drop. But what I'm looking for is to see if the Pats are going to be able to keep up their rush defense. I mean, these guys are number one in the NFL right now. They're stuffing people and they're going to make you beat them in the air. And so when you look at what Atlanta did last week with London and Penix and those guys, secondary was looking a little shaky. And so I'm thinking it's going to come down to quarterback play. I think both teams are going to stop the run, and then it's going to come down to turnovers. So when you look at Drake May, he's having a good year. I mean, 4th most passing yards, close to 2,300. He threw for about 260 last week, but he's getting sacked. He got sacked 6 times, and he has turned the ball over in the last couple of weeks, and he's fumbled 7 times. So I think Todd both guys are going to stop the run, and then they're going to get after this young quarterback. But Drake did take care of the football because he had 4 straight games without an interception as well. Tampa Bay gives up about 230 in the pass defense. And I think that's about where Drake's going to be. But if New England can run the football, then I think it's going to be a long day for Tampa. But I think it's going to come down to quarterback play and the run game. Turnovers. Is Baker Mayfield going to outplay Drake May? Which quarterback is going to make the least mistakes? Which offensive line is going to hold up? Now, I think neither will be able to run the ball effectively. So it's going to come down to goals, touchdowns in the red zone. And it's going to come down to protecting the quarterback.
Something that was brought up on one of the episodes of Locked On Bucs, and I want your guys' opinion on this because I hadn't really thought about it. I've been kind of buying in, right? Vrabel comes in, looks to turn this team around. Drake May is one of the MVP favorites in the NFL right now because of the way that he has been playing ball. But you take a look at the Patriots and what they've accomplished so far this season. I'm just going to run down this list real quick. They have played the Raiders, the Dolphins, the Steelers, the Panthers, the Bills, the Saints, the Titans, the Browns, and the Falcons. No shade thrown their way for winning at Buffalo. That's impressive. Mm-hmm. But they played one other team that would be in the playoffs if the playoffs started right now, and that's the Steelers, and they lost. My question to you guys is, do you feel like this Patriots team is legit and for real, or are they just maximizing their opportunities against an advantageous schedule?
I guess my question back with, what do you mean by legit and for real? Do I think they're a Super Bowl contender? No, I don't. Do I think they're an AFC championship contender? No, but do I think they're a playoff team? Yeah, I think they're at least legit that way.
Well, and I would real quick kind of counter with something that my old co-host and I used to talk about all the time. There are playoff teams and there are teams that make the playoffs. And I
Right.
kind of
Yeah.
feel right now the Patriots might fall into the category of a team that makes the playoffs. Because like I said, I mean, they've played 3 teams with a winning record so far. That's the Bills, the Steelers, and the Panthers. Other than that, they get the Bucs, they get the Bills again. The Ravens don't even have a winning record. So they have 2 teams on their schedule for the rest of the season as of right now that have a winning record. So you put them in the playoffs against the Chiefs, against the Bills. Are they actually going to be able to hang with those teams, or are they just beating up on all of these bad teams on their schedule?
I think it's a combination. I think they're legit. I mean, when you watch them play, it's like, okay, they're handling their business. So they didn't make the schedule. So, and
Sure.
it is the NFL. So right now, some of those teams could end up having winning records, not the Saints, but I'm saying a couple of those other teams might. And like you said, go up there and beat the Bills like that. Here's what's impressed me about the Patriots. They're 4-0 on the road. They've won 6 straight. They're stopping the run. I thought they were in control of that game last week. Easily could have lost, though. I think Atlanta just tricked it off. I mean, missed the point. They had penalties at the end. I think they dodged the bullet there. But when you look at how they beat the Browns and the Titans, they're winning by 3 touchdowns, 3 scores. So it's not like they're just squeaking by these bad teams right now. But I think they're legit. I think Mike Vrabel, just playing against them in college, his career in the league, and then watching him coach, he's a tough guy. So what he's instilled is that old school Patriots football when Brady and Belichick and those guys were there. You got a young, hot quarterback. You got Henderson and those guys running the football. But I also think it could come down to who's healthy. Is Gonzalez going to play? Is Kayshawn going to play with the hamstring? With the wide receiver, Stevenson, and you got the linebacker Christian Ellis. They've got some guys banged up too, because that was a slugfest against Atlanta in that second half. I don't think the Patriots looked very good in the second half, but they find ways to win. And so when you do that, then it's like, are they good? Are they great? I don't know. But they beat the guys that they, when you win 6 in a row in this league, regardless of who you play, I think that's impressive. So, but I think Tampa Bay has an opportunity to make a statement now. We need to find out who they have coming back, who gets healthy. Obviously, Foles didn't give us much at his press conference about that. But that can have an impact on the game, too, who comes back for Tampa Bay. Because they can it, and then you start locking up Ibuka. What are you going to do offensively? Because you're not going to run the ball against this Patriot team.
Yeah, and that's why I think they are a legit playoff team and not just a team that would make the playoffs. Just because, as Marcus said, it is so hard to win in the NFL. And we see teams all the time lose to teams they shouldn't lose to. And so I just always have the respect for the teams. Yeah, they have an easy schedule, but they're winning on the schedule. And so I always respect those teams because they could easily overlook a team and just be like, oh, this team's terrible. We're going to, Saints, we're going to blow them out, something like that, and then lose that game. And obviously at the end of the year, they don't have a great schedule either. That's why I think this is a crucial game, not just for Tampa, but also for New England. Because if you go in and win that game, a lot of those question marks that you're talking about, James, is pretty much a race for New England, where a lot more people are thinking they're a legit team if they're able to win this game. But same thing for Tampa, though. You just keep that momentum going, go for the race to get the number 1 seed in the NFC, and it starts with a big win on Sunday.
Yeah, and that's totally fair. That's why I was kind of curious how you guys viewed the Patriots up to this point, because I mean, Marcus, and you make a great point, and I've said it at times. I think I said it last year when the Bucs were going on a run after the bye because their schedule was so advantageous, is you can only beat the team in front of you. You don't get to choose who you play who you play. Like, that's how it is. So you go out there and you got to win those games. So yeah, I was just kind of curious what I wanted to do a little temperature check as to where we were all sitting with the Patriots. I don't think I'm 100% sold on them, but I do think they are a team that could, shock some people once they get into the postseason, that they could turn around and beat the Ravens or beat the Chiefs or beat the Chargers. because they are a very well-coached team. They're a young team, and they have a ton of talent. But one of those talented pieces, and Marcus, I know you have a bold prediction coming up. I promised everyone I would tell you why Emeka Egbuka would eat in this game. And I think it's because all you have to do is go back to the tape from last week. We don't even know if Christian Gonzalez is going to play. But even when he was in the game, Drake London absolutely dominated. 9 receptions on 14 targets for 118 and a hat trick. You can't tell me that Emeka Egbuka can't go out there and do the exact same thing. We're talking about a guy that played through a hamstring injury. He's had the rest. He's going to come back at least more healthy than we saw him in the last 2 games. You have Baker Mayfield, who has gotten some rest. He's going to be more healthy. We talked about it on the last squad show. The practice window for Luke Gedeke has opened up. I don't think he plays in this one, but this team is getting more healthy. I think Emeka Egbuka is poised to really take advantage of, if not a defense without Christian Gonzalez, then a defense with a less than 100% Christian Gonzalez.
Yeah, and I wanted to bring up this comment real quick. I thought it was a great comment from King Cook. He said, in my opinion, even though the Pats are 7-2, this is still a team we should beat. That is a young, inexperienced team over there, and we should have the upper hand all game. I 100% agree with that. While they have been impressive, they are 7-2. I expect that Tampa should win this game.
Well, yeah, and they had 2 weeks to prepare, so I think that's the advantage goes to the Bucs there. But there are some holes in that secondary, and the thing the Falcons did, they moved Drake London around. Like if you watch on the goal line, they shifted. One time he motioned and then ran it out, but he made some spectacular grabs too. I mean, ball placement by Penix was just it was just amazing. But he went crazy. So I think Emeka can get busy too if they can give Baker the time, and if Baker's healthy, I think he can shred them. But I think for the Patriots, when you look at their schedule too, let's say they do get by this one. If they beat the Bucs, then they have the Jets, the Bengals, and the Giants, and then if they're at 10 straight, okay, then we're looking at everybody's record. Then you got the rematch with the Bills. So I think Tampa Bay having 2 weeks to prepare, getting guys healthy, watching that Atlanta film, and just knowing that if the Falcons got 6 sacks last week, Todd Bowles and company, they're dialing some things up too. So the defense may have to score in this one like they did against the Saints. And I think that could be something that would break the game open too, because that defense for a performance, I know it was against the Saints, still pro football. That was a big-time performance, and we'll see if a guy like Nelson can step up and be a difference maker, or maybe it just may be another unsung hero. But when you get guys stepping up like that's what impressed me about the Bucs. But I do give them the advantage because I just think they're going to get to Drake May about 5 or 6 times.
Well, and something else to remember, you mentioned the Bucs have that additional week to prepare. The Patriots are playing a divisional game on a Thursday night after this Bucs game. I realize it's the Jets, but like you said, pro football, they know how much more important that divisional game is compared to a game against an NFC opponent. They might get caught, looking ahead a little bit to make sure that they take care of their own division on a short week against a team coming off of a bye week. So just another little wrinkle to add into how this matchup lines up with these teams.
Yeah, and the last thing I'll say, Marcus brought it up, is Baker healthy? Because if he's healthy and playing like the guy from the first 6 weeks, I think Tampa wins and may even win somewhat easily because, as Marcus mentioned, they're the best run defense, but they allow the 8th most passing yards in the NFL. So that bodes well for a big game for Baker, for Emeka Egbuka, as James mentioned. So I think if he can get back to that kind of games that he was having and does look healthier, I think Tampa might even win by 2 scores.
Well, and the Patriots have won 4 out of the last 5 versus the NFC South too. I mean, they're kind of down it up. Just put that in your back pocket too.
Yeah, 100%. All right, we got some injury updates. Is Bucky Irving going to play? What about Luke Gedeke? We'll talk about that. That's coming up next. Well, the NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into the same game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, well, thanks for hanging with the Bucs squad today. Let's talk about Bucky Irving. It doesn't sound like there's much of an update on him, except I did see that someone asked him if he was going to be back soon, and he said, "I'm ready." So whatever that means, it's very vague.
Yeah, he's been pretty active on Instagram lately. He was posting pictures of him working out with what looked like a personal trainer. I saw the "I'm ready" comment. It looks like he is raring and ready to go. And you remember he went down week 4 against the Philadelphia Eagles, and we all kind of assumed it was the ankle, right? It was the play where he fumbled, but he didn't actually fumble. But God forbid the refs actually call something in the Bucs' favor this season, because his ankle kind of bent real awkwardly. And then turns out it was the shoulder injury that was keeping him out longer than that ankle. So, he's been working on rehabbing it. He's been, putting in the time and the effort. And I think if they had played a game this past week, he probably wouldn't have been in. I think this bye week, again, helps him out a lot. And it wouldn't surprise me if we see him on Sunday against the Patriots. Maybe a little bit of a snap count, might be closer to a 50-50 timeshare with Rashad than a typical Bucky game where he's getting 65-70% of the opportunities compared to Rashad and Sean Tucker. But obviously we'll hear from Bowles on Wednesday, but I have a sneaking suspicion that Bucky will be suited up.
Yeah, I think so too, and I think they're going to watch his pitch count. I mean, I don't think you throw him back in the mix and try to run him into the ground, and you need guys like White and Tucker and those guys on the ball. I just think that I think Bucky's going to play, and I think they're going to probably use him in situations like, last year he wasn't very much of a receiving running back. I mean, they didn't target him that much, but this year he has 2 touchdowns catching the football out of the backfield. When you look at his stats, though, he hasn't had a game more than 75 yards, but he has 19 receptions. And I think look for him on third down, look for him in situations where you can get him some touches in space just to see how healthy that he is and still rotate the other back there. But I do think if he is 100%, he can be a difference maker in this game. I mean, but remember, he's going against the number 1 rush defense in the National Football League now. Now, we know that we just talked about how Patriots hasn't really played all of these great teams yet. At the same token, the Bucs are going to have to run the football. They're going to have to rush it at least about 75 yards just to keep the pace on, shorten the game if they have to, protect your quarterback. But I think Bucky is a guy that you use. The point is you use him in situations. You don't even have to start him. But I do think you give him a couple of carries. The Bucs are going to have to win on first down, 4 yards, 3-4 yards on first down, just to keep the defense honest. But I think he's a difference maker, and if he does play, it's going to have to be catching the ball out of the backfield, and then also in pass protection. But if he runs the ball and he gets busy, then we know what Bucky looks like when Bucky's healthy. And so you're talking about a foot. If he doesn't have that burst or that suddenness or that short area quickness, then we know the ankle's still an issue. And I will tell you this, when you're a running back and you're in the National Football League coming back from a shoulder, it is pound time. So I know Vrabel, he's going to say, hit that son of a pow, pow. So understand that too. If you see the Patriots flying around, if they see Bucky, they're going after the shoulder. It's like a boxing match. Once you got that cut, or if somebody got something going on, you just keep working on it. So that's my concern, is that how how effective or how often are they going to use Bucky, and we're going to know when we watch him play if he's 100%.
Yeah, and I want to address one of the comments real quick. They asked about Jalen McMillan. We talked about it on Sunday. Broken bone in his neck, still in a brace, so he's not going to be back this week, and probably not for maybe not even the season. We'll have to wait and see on that one. But yeah, no, I agree with both of y'all on Bucky. I think he definitely should have a snap count. I don't think you bring him back and he's just full go yet, because there are so many more important games down the season. Now, every game's important, and this one is important obviously too, because the Patriots are good. But as James mentioned, the most important might be that Rams game. So you need him healthy for that, and then obviously the playoff run at the end of the season. So you don't want to rush him too quickly against a really good run defense. Are they the best? We'll see, because as Marcus mentioned, the schedule, we don't know how good they actually are defensively, run defense at least. But they got to be one of the top 10, even if you take out the easy games. So I'm curious to see what they end up doing with him. I think I kind of like the idea of using him more in the pass game in this one, just an extra threat out there. And then obviously you still have to give him some running game touches as well, but just to kind of get him a rhythm too, because he's been out for so long.
Yeah, I definitely don't want to see Grizz abandon the run game the way that he did against the Detroit Lions, even with a stout run defense in New England. And we've mentioned it a couple of times now that the schedule hasn't been the greatest, but look, a 6-point win over the Dolphins. Achane had 30 yards. You faced a Bills team with James Cook. It was a 1-score game. Josh Allen was their leading rusher with 56 yards. It was the only time this season we've seen Quinshon Judkins shut down there in Cleveland. You just faced Bijan Robinson. Again, it was a 1-score game. He didn't even crack 50 yards rushing. So that run defense is absolutely legit. Another reason why I think Ibuka is going to go absolutely nuclear in this game. But when you utilize Bucky in the passing game as well as the run game, you have to be committed to the run. You have to keep them honest and committed to that so they don't just tee off on Baker. But something that this Bucs offense has been sorely missing with all of these players out is that explosive play ability that you get anytime Bucky touches the ball. Now, we've started to see it with Tez Johnson. He's starting to come into his own a little bit. He's getting more comfortable in the offense. He's becoming a bigger part of the offense. But anytime Bucky has the ball in his hands, whether it's a run, a short pass, a wheel route, whatever it is, he has the chance to turn any play into a home run from anywhere on the field. And that's what the Bucs have missed. So, just having him out there, even to the level of a decoy in the passing game, is going to open things up for some of these other guys, even if it's just Cade Otton on the short little route over the middle, because a linebacker has to be committed to covering Bucky out of the backfield. It's going to really start to shift this offense back to what it was supposed to be rather than what they've had to deal with because of all of the players that have been going in and out of the lineup.
Yeah, if the Bucs get those explosives that you're talking about, I mean, I don't think they'll have any problems at all. And also, you can utilize the quick passing game, 5-yard hitches, quick outs, stuff like that, just to get the ball out of Baker's hands fast. And that's also a glorified way of running the ball too. Just a little speed out, first down, 5 yards. But I do think Ibuka is going to be, I don't know if he'll do what London did last week, because I think they use him a little bit differently. And I don't think the Patriots were expecting that from London. I don't think they locked on him like they're going to do Emeka and say, we know we have to stop this guy. But I just think what London did, he just found, Drake just found a way to, he just got hot, man. He just got hot. And I think Penix lit it up. But they also gave him time for the ball too. So I do think if Bucky can run the ball effectively, then you can get into some play action stuff. Look for, the tight end to get open. So I think Bucky and Rachaad White running that football could set up those explosives that you're talking about, James. Even if he gets 4 or 5 yards here or there, you have to honor that. But if he pops one and starts getting 15, 20, Patriots haven't been giving up those type of runs. But just understand, if Bucky does get in there and the run game is working, now we're talking about play action. I think you can use Bucky on screens, and then that's when you free up Ibuka going up top and having a day like London, but I'm gonna make a bold prediction later. But I'm telling you right now, if Bucky plays and he could be the difference in this game. But believe it or not, because if they run the ball down the Patriots' throat, the number one rush defense in the National Football League, that's going to be a statement. It's going to give that offense a lot of confidence. Now, they haven't done the best in pass protection, but if they can get a push, man, and run that football with Bucky, it'll open up that performance you're talking about for Emeka.
Yeah, he just brings a totally different element to the team that they just have been missing with him out. And it's funny because when you look at his rushing numbers, they're not eye-popping, but when you watch the game, you can just tell it's a different feel when he's out there compared to – and Rachaad White's done really well, and so is Sean Tucker, but it's just a different thing when Bucky's out there, and so hopefully he's back and fully healthy. The other injury news is Luke Gedeke. He returned to practice, which opened his 21-day window, so he could actually play as soon as this Sunday, or they could hold him out any longer. That's obviously massive news and something we've been talking about for a while. James, you mentioned it, I think, almost every show so far.
Yeah, I mean, that's a massive part of what the Bucs have been missing. A guy that isn't going to get he's not going to get the glory that Bucky or Mike or Chris or McMillan get when they return, but he's so vital to what they're able to accomplish. Marcus, you talked on the last show about the struggles that we've seen from Mike Jordan there at the right guard position in absence of Cody Mauch. Luke Gedeke elevates this offensive line to a different level. And having that steady presence, having that reliable guy there, no disrespect to Charlie Heck. You're in the NFL, man. You made it. You're better than I could ever dream of being. And even with that, he has struggled so much, and it's apparent. It's apparent in the run game. It's apparent in the blocking schemes to try to give Baker Mayfield time. I think Baker mentioned on the Manning cast that he's been sacked 5 times, like 3 games in a row or something ridiculous like that, where it was the most in Bucs history over that span. So you need that guy back. And once you get that guy back, you can go back to that Saints game. You think it's going to take 8 tries to score from the 1-yard line if you can get Luke Gedeke out there? He's a dog. He is a nasty dude on the football field. And that's what this offensive line needs. So I am reserving or tempering my expectations. I do not think he plays this week. That's my own personal opinion. No, not a medical expert. I think it's just going to take more than 3 practices for him to get his legs under him after being out for as long as he's been.
Yeah, I agree with that. And then our offensive linemen, like, they have double duty. Run blocking and pass protection. So if he does play, and I think he'd make a world of difference. You made a great point about that goal line stand. I mean, you run behind this guy, you're probably going to get that yard. But then also, I think Baker now feels more comfortable in the pocket knowing he has one of his dogs back. He has one of his protectors. And so, because quarterbacks get a little gun when you guys getting beat. Also, what that doesn't allow Mike Vrabel and company to dial up some exotic blitzes, with the stunt, some of the stuff that the Saints were trying to do in Detroit. But if you get a guy like Gedeke back, now the scouting report gets a little bit different because now you're not going against certain guys that you saw on film. They may not be out there. So it kind of changes your game plan defensively. I tell you what, I think when he does come back, you're going to know it. You're going to see it. Guys like him and Bucky, when they line up and they're healthy and they're playing, you're like, oh, yeah, that's what it looks like. So I think if Big Luke can come back, man, it might be, like you said, James, a little short, a little early for this game, but I would say within the next week and a half or so, we're going to see the big fella back out there.
Yeah, as y'all mentioned, I think the most important thing is his cardio, just getting that back when you miss so much time. So, and just getting the feel of things again, too. So that's why I agree. I don't think they'll play him this week. That's just my personal belief. As James said, it's nothing Todd has said. But I think, and again, it kind of goes also back to my Bucky comment where, yes, this is a big game, but you have bigger games down the road. So you don't want to rush him back either just because you need him out there. So we'll see if he ends up playing or if Bucky plays. But regardless, I think even if either guy doesn't play, they have a chance, and they really should win the game regardless. But You never know in the NFL. So, but coming up next, we're going to give our bold prediction, one for the offense, one for the defense for the rest of the season. Don't go anywhere. All right, Buck Squad, we are back for our final segment, our bold prediction segment. Marcus, let's start with the offense for all three of us. Marcus, what are you thinking offensively?
I think offensively, man, I hate to do this. I think the Bucs are going to average 24 points the rest of the season. I really, if as they get healthy and everybody's there, they're going to kind of be unstoppable. And the defenses get the ball back an awful lot. And so if you can score 24 points in the National Football League, anywhere from 24 to like 28, then it puts a lot of pressure on that other team. I'm not sure what the Bucs are averaging right now, but I just think moving forward, looking at their schedule, they're going to average 24 points a game. And I also think they're going to average about 75 yards on the ground. And I'm going to give you one prediction for this game. I think Baker's going to throw for 300 yards. I think Baker's going to throw for 300 yards and about 3 touchdowns. And also they're going to run the ball for about 60 to 75 yards. I don't think they'll have 400 total yards, not what I'm saying, but I think Baker goes between 250 to 300 yards, depending on the type of game that it is, because I think the Bucs are going to win, but it's going to be his arm. But they're going to run the ball just good enough. And I'm just telling you right now, I think Baker's going for 300, and I think this offense is going to average, once everybody comes, 24 to 27 points a game, and they're going to be hard to beat.
I love that. I love that so much, especially your prediction for this game, because it plays perfectly into my prediction for the rest of the season. I was going to roll with one with Emeka. I feel like I've talked about him enough on this episode. I want to talk about Baker right now. You know, Baker's got 1,919 yards, 13 touchdowns. So he is on pace right now for 4,077 yards and 28 touchdowns. That is a far cry from the 4,540 plus that he had last year. And I don't see those numbers continuing. I think we're about to see a spike back to the MVP Baker play that we saw in the first 6 weeks. So my prediction here is that Baker finishes the season with over 4,200 yards and at least 34 touchdowns. So right now he's averaging 1.6 touchdowns per game. This is a jump up to 2.3 per game. He's got 3 games this year with 1 or 0 touchdown passes. He's not getting shut out in any of these games. He will have at least 1 touchdown pass in every single game. And you know Baker's going to have 1 or 2 where he drops 3 or 4 touchdowns on one of these teams. So I think Baker really takes it up a notch after the bye week to finish out the regular season strong.
I like both of y'all's bold prediction. I had to sit there and think about it for a little bit because I wanted to go real bold. I said it before when we started the show that I thought Emeka would have a better end to the season than he's had a start of the season because he's been obviously incredible, 562 yards. I think he actually will break the Bucs rookie receiving yards record this year, which is something that Michael Clayton holds, 1,193 yards. I think he gets over the 1,200 yard mark. I think he goes off these last few games. Mainly because he also isn't going to compete with Mike Evans for those touches like he did at parts during the season. So that plays a factor with all the injuries they've had as well. But I just think you're about to see the best of Emeka because I think even the reason why his numbers kind of came down was because he was having to play, but he had this hamstring injury. Like he was just playing through it because it wasn't so severe to hold him out. And so I think that's why the bye week was so great for him. And all of our predictions kind of coincide with each other because y'all think Baker's going to go off. Well, Baker's going to go off. That means Emeka's going to go off. And I was with James when he was talking about earlier in the show about Emeka having a big game this weekend. That was kind of went into my thought process. I thought he could have a really great game this weekend. And then, as we've mentioned many times, after this 3-game stretch, the schedule gets a little lighter. Now, the only thing that might throw a wrench in it is if he doesn't play the last game of the year because they've already got something sealed. But I think he's going to have a great end to the season.
I love that a lot too, because the one that I was going to go with, no joke, Jared, was I had Ibuka for over 1,200 yards and 13 touchdowns. And that 13 would have also broken another Bucs rookie record of 12 touchdown receptions set by Mike Evans. It would also tie him for second all time in touchdown receptions by a rookie. He would tie Jamar Chase, John Jefferson, and Billy Houghton. I don't think he's catching Randy Moss's 17 in 1998, but I don't know. You get a hat trick like Drake London just did against the Pats, and you're well on your way, man. You'd only need 9 in 8 games the rest of the way. So yeah, I love your bold there, because I was saying the same thing. So we're right there, man. I love it.
Well, my first thought was, can he get to Puka's record? And I was like, no, I don't think he can get that much. That's like over 900 yards. I don't think he's going to quite get there. I couldn't go that bold. But all right, let's go to the defense, Marcus. What's your bold prediction with the defense?
Well, right now, I tell you what, the Bucs have 25 sacks, I believe. I think they finished the year with 55 sacks. I think they're going to lead the National Football League in sacks in the next 8 weeks. I think by the time you get to the playoffs, they will. I'm not talking about they're going to have the most sacks in the league. I think in the next 8 games, they're going to have the most sacks in the National Football League. They have 25 now. I think it's going to put them up to about 55. And because Reddick's going to come back, I think they're going to throw Drake May around a little bit too. I think they're going to get to him this week. And I'm on a bold prediction. I think they'll get 5 or 6 sacks on Sunday and 2 turnovers. And so I believe he's going to throw the football to win. I think he's going to make some plays, but I just think Todd Bowles and those guys, they're going to get to this young quarterback. And I think they're going to disguise some coverages and give him some looks. But when you have a defense that's violent and active, productive, and disruptive, right now, Bucs 25 sacks. They finished with at least 55 sacks, and they're going to lead the NFL in sacks in the next 8 games. That's my prediction for that defense.
Yeah, I love that too. They have found a way to use I know a lot of Bucs fans are frustrated or disappointed or whatever word you want to use with the production of Hassan Reddick. But when you look at what this team has been able to do as a whole, it's not one individual. It's not the Shaq Barrett days where he was the guy that was going to get you all the sacks. This is a collective unit that has really been able to shine. And to your point, Marcus, against the Patriots, Drake May has been sacked the second most times in the NFL. He's been sacked 34 times. The only person to be sacked more is Cam Ward. That's insane. So if you got Yaya teeing off, if you have Anthony Nelson or Hassan Reddick or a platoon between the two, you're blitzing Servassier, you're blitzing Tyke and Antoine, you're bringing Parrish over from the slot core. Todd Bowles is going to be able to give Drake May a lot of different looks and confuse him quite a bit. I think they can get to him quite a few times, but it's nice to talk about a team that's towards the top of the league in sacks, and it's not because of Myles Garrett or Aiden Hutchinson or TJ Watt. It's because this entire team has found ways to get to the quarterback. So I really like that one a lot, Marcus. My defense, I was going to talk about Yaya, but I think I'm going to go in a different direction, and I'm going to talk about the defense as a whole as well. So the Bucs, they're 4th in the NFL in total takeaways right now. I think the Buccaneers finish the season with 28 takeaways. Now, they have some really favorable matchups in terms of teams that turn the ball over. Miami is the worst in the league with giveaways. Carolina has given the ball away 13 times. You get them twice. New Orleans has 14 turnovers. We saw a couple of those against the Buccaneers. And if you think about the fact that the Bucs only had 18 takeaways last season, and they have as many interceptions this year through 8 games as they did all of last year. This Todd Bowles called out his entire defense. He said, I want ball hawks. And every single one of them has answered the call, especially Jamel Dean, who, that dude couldn't catch a cold for years. And now all of a sudden his hands are just a football magnet. So I think this team is going to be incredibly opportunistic. And Marcus, it plays right into what your prediction is. When you're getting to the quarterback that often and you speed up that internal clock that they have, they start throwing the ball sooner than they want to. They start making mistakes. They start getting those happy feet and get jittery. That's when the secondary and the linebackers have been so opportunistic this year. I think it continues. I think they're really going to make a statement with the amount of times they get the ball back for the offense.
So the funny thing is, when we decided to do this topic, the first thing I looked at was exactly what James talked about, the turnovers. Right? Because I was like, they're going to make a jump on turnovers. I think they could do it. And I was like, okay, but I also like the sack category. So I went with like what Marcus is thinking. All right, the sacks are good. And then after thinking about both of those, I was like, well, if you think both of these are going to take the jump that you think they're going to take the jump, what about total defense? So that's when I started looking at the total defense. So we kind of all went with the total defense one, but right now the Bucs rank number 15 in the league, allowing 321.4 yards per game. I think they finished the year in the top 10. The Rams are number 10 at 302.9. So it's going to take a decent amount of games to get up that high, but I think they're going to get quite a bit of sacks. I think they're going to be on the field not as much because of the turnovers. And because of all that, and with you get Bucky back, and then obviously you have Rashad White, I think they'll be able to control the clock a little more. I just think the Bucs defense, which I've been very critical on, especially early in the season, I think the last two games was more of who they were instead of a fluke. And at first I was like, maybe it's a fluke, but then just going into it and us talking about it, I think it's more of who they are and not really a fluke.
Yeah, and I'll tell you this, like, James, you said it's not one guy. It's not. They have 15 guys with at least a half a sack. I mean, what that tells me is that they're doing it by committee. It's Todd Bowles saying a cornerback, an outside linebacker. I mean, even Vita has got 2.5 sacks. So they're freeing up each other, and that's the thing. It's like I played on a great defense in college a long time ago, and I think 10 of 11 of our starters played in the National Football League. We had 31 pros on that team. Charles got all the credit, but there were 4 or 3 other pro defensive backs on that unit in that secondary, and we had a good D line. But what I'm saying is, when you win, there's enough for everybody. So what's happening is those guys are playing off of each other, and everybody is getting in on the sack party. It's not that one guy, it's home run derby. So when you have multiple people that can get to the quarterback, I mean, it's just nightmares for offensive coordinators, because you can't say, well, let's slide the protection and let's block David or Nelson. And no. It's coming from everywhere. It's just like organized chaos, what it is. And I think they're going to get to Drake May early and often, and I think he's going to make a lot of mistakes. But that's why we play the game. We'll revisit this on Sunday when we give our recap. But what I'm saying is, I just think the sack thing is a big deal in the National Football League, especially when it's a passing league. You guys are talking about Ibuka's, chasing that record by Randy, and back then it wasn't even a passing league yet. Back in '98, that's what's most impressive about what Randy did. So, but with a passing league, you never know. I really like you guys' predictions straight up.
Yeah, and Jaron, to your prediction here, it like you said, it plays perfectly off of Marcus's and mine. And when you start to get those offensive pieces back, you get Bucky, and then you get Chris, and then you get Jalen, and then you get Mike, and this offense can stack some points early, get off to some faster starts. All it takes is one of Marcus's sacks to put a team in 3rd and long. Now all of a sudden they're 3 and out. Bucs can stack even more points. Now you've turned their offense one-dimensional, and that's when Todd Bowles is at his absolute best. That's when he's teeing off. That's when he's racking up the sacks. That's when they're getting the takeaways. That's when the yardage numbers drop, because they cannot move the ball because of all the pressure. Yeah, guy, I think we just figured out that the Bucs are winning the Super Bowl. I'm glad we did this.
Yeah, they're doing it. All right, I do want to apologize real quick, because I'm about to throw you guys a curveball, but I should have thought about this beforehand. Score prediction, Marcus. What do you think for the Bucs Pats?
I got 27 20.
27-20. James?
Okay, well, I'm gonna stay true to myself. I never give score predictions until my final Friday preview episode,
Hey,
but I will
that's
say
fair.
this. I think the Bucs win. I think they cover, and I think for just the third time this season, they take a victory formation at the end of the game.
I like that. Mine was 27-17, so I was thinking on the same line as Marcus. But all right, for the Buck Squad show, I'm Jaron. That's Marcus. That's James. We'll have our post-game show on Sunday. But until next time, fire the cannons.